How are you, Shania?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm really good. Despite like Corona and everything happening and like uni life, I'm doing well.
So, how long have you been writing music? I mean, when did it all start for you? I imagine it's probably a case of as a child and sort of, when did you have that moment of looking at a musician or a band and thinking, I kind of want to do that?
I guess like even when I was younger, I just really loved music. I used to have like loads of like pop party albums. Do you remember them, the CDs? Yeah. I used to have like loads and loads and like dance in my room like constantly. I just wanted to be like a singer, like just like them, like the people I used to listen to. And I think that was when I was like 8. But then when I was like 13, that's when I like taken it like seriously and actually like started writing like decent songs.
What are your views on creativity and songwriting? Are you setting aside time to create and write, or do you believe more in allowing ideas, songs, titles, licks, or chords to come to you naturally? Because I know sometimes you sit down and you try and, like, all right, I'm going to do 2 hours now, I'm going to try and force it out. How does it work for you? Is it a combination of the two? Is it more natural and organic? How does it work for you?
Yeah, I feel like a few years ago it used to be more organic, kind of like when I wanted to do it. But now, because my schedule's a bit more busy, because I'm at uni as well, I need to like actually okay have set time of when I'm gonna like practice. Otherwise, I'll just like end up forgetting or not doing it for like weeks and weeks because like the schedule's just so hectic. So now it's more like okay, I'm gonna set aside like Tuesday and Wednesday. I'm gonna like try and write new songs or like try and produce. So then I know at least I'm doing something. Yeah, because otherwise it just I'll end up forgetting or like not doing it in enough time.
So I know you've mentioned obviously before this that you suffer with or deal with anxiety and depression. Now I wanted to talk about the sort of link between your creative craft, music, and depression and anxiety. So I was wondering, I mean, the two mental health sort of issues and whatever, they sort of sometimes are never far apart from a creative sort of endeavor. They either seek to enhance the other or, they end up tripping the other one up, sort of thing. How do the anxiety, depression, and the music songwriting, how do they all coalesce together? Is there an element of perhaps therapy and a meditative side to it for you in relation to your depression? How are they functioning sort of together?
Yeah, I was just gonna say like especially songwriting, that's definitely like my form of therapy in a sense. Like getting my emotions out there and being able to like express myself and how I'm feeling and what my brain's telling me into like and creating it into something new. I find that like really really peaceful and it really helps like get everything out there. So I think that's how they definitely like link, especially. I think it is quite therapeutic to me. Rather than like sitting there and like being in my thoughts for ages and like feeling kind of sad or feeling a type of way. Like getting it out there and like creating something new and then helping other people as well. And then posting it and like sharing it, it makes me feel a bit more happy and a bit more content, kind of. So I think that's kind of like my way of coping with my things and problems.
I know you've previously spoken about being black within the indie genre, and I know the indie genre itself is historically and stereotypically this sort of weirdly white subgenre of rock music, and we know that obviously rock music as a whole sort of has its groundings and roots in Afro American R&B, rhythm and blues, like classic old stuff from back in the day. And I just wanted to talk about and ask you some of the perhaps challenges and anxieties that you face within this sort of very white indie genre. I mean, why do you think for you perhaps that the two are often found at opposite ends of the spectrum, and how do you find it as a black musician in this white genre, let's say?
Yeah, I would say so definitely. It's like predominantly like white. Like when I go to shows and stuff, that's who you see. Your other acts are like white, even though like the origins, when you look into it and do the reading, it's actually come from a lot of black people and black musicians in the past. So when you go into these spaces and it's like predominantly white, you're like, oh, like, do I belong here? You kind of have that sense of feeling sometimes. But then you just kind of have to like, how can I word this? You kind of have to like not fall into the trap of like feeling as though you have to be those expectations kind of thing. And that's kind of how I've like dealt with it and just like carry on doing my thing. And I have a lot of like music friends who are also like indie stars and they're black women as well. And we help like support each other, encourage each other. Like we are here, like do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean. I mean, in some ways, the sort of indie genre is kind of dying out a little bit, and now it's because before it was It was sort of before, I think, especially when I was a lot younger. It was, and you look back, it's all like very guitar based and blokes and stuff. Now it's sort of opening up a bit, and indie genre can mean incorporating that keyboard, and then it starts to verge on a little bit dancing, a little bit poppy, and a little bit R&B esque or whatever. And that is, I feel like that sort of the genre itself is starting to become a little bit non-existent and open up a little bit, which in some ways helps. I think.
Yeah, like in the past, it's kind of like very like rock and like you didn't really see many women in it even. It was mainly
Mm-hmm.
men. But like as of recently, you're seeing more women and now more women of color, more black women, like stepping into those spaces kind of thing.
What are, from your experience, sort of? I know you kind of touched on them, but what are some of the further challenges and anxieties that you faced? I mean, apart from going into a show and being perhaps because you don't want to, I don't think anyone ever wants to look like the sort of token color, black sort of musician or creative. You know what I mean?
I guess it's also like seeing other people doing the same thing you're doing and feeling as though, okay, they've been given more opportunities maybe because they are white, and I've
Mm-hmm.
been given like less because I'm black. Sometimes you kind of have that like doubt. You're not knowing if is it because of my color or is it because of like talent? Like you just never really know. And I think that's something that's like bothered me definitely in the past. But it's just, I guess, one of the things you just have to like learn to kind of walk through and uncover.
Especially with the record labels and stuff. I think sometimes the people don't understand or realize, and they do need their eyes opening to it, I guess. And especially especially if they're working for a label and whatever, and they kind of look back and historically it is white, then I guess they have this image built up. You know what I mean? And I guess obviously it does take a certain penetration to sort of open it up, and those are the golden ones, I suppose. They're being active in that, but I mean, it's just a silly old age old argument and question to try and open up the creative arts. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like that's another thing. Like I feel like the labels and like the people high up there, they have like a certain image of what they think an indie singer is. And usually that's not like a black woman or woman of color. Like even with the award shows, you barely, I think Tyler the Creator said this, like you barely see like black people nominated for awarded for what? Nominated for categories that are like beyond R&B or like rap or something. You barely have black nominees for other genres like indie, rock, barely alternative music.
Obviously, with everything that's gone on in America and stuff, and the Black Lives Matters movement, people are starting to be a little bit more aware and properly understand, slowly but surely, the issues related to race and, in particular, uh, blackness. And so, with everything that's gone on with that, how do you feel it's perhaps linked in with your mental health? Because I know that there can be, I know that obviously the racism, the racial sort of element of everything that's gone on, etc., etc. I know that that can create and sometimes exacerbate mental health issues, and I wanted to ask how perhaps that's affected you from a mental health standpoint with everything that had started, and kind of how did that affect you and your mental health as obviously a black woman?
Yeah, like at that particular time it was really hard. And I think being in lockdown made it worse because it's like you're at home, you have nothing else to do but check your phone and check the news. And it's like you're seeing black people dying like on a daily and the struggles you face. And it's like nothing you can like do. You can like sign petitions and you can donate, which obviously does help in many cases, but you kind of feel a bit helpless. And that kind of, it's a like, really horrible feeling at that time. I remember it was really hard. And then having like brands and companies like do things for like performative reasons and not even like showing that they actually care. Again, that's just like like a kind of a bummer kind of thing and makes you feel a bit down. Definitely those months. It was like May, June, it was like really hard. And that's all you see, like everyone's talking about it all over the news. And then you want to like escape and like have that like mental like just break, but then you feel guilty that you're not keeping up. So it's like it was a really hard battle during that time.
I mean, did you? I know I went to some of the protests. Did you go yourself to any? I mean, where are you based? You're based in Canterbury, aren't you?
Yeah, so Canterbury and London. But no, I didn't end up going to any myself. I think it's, I can't remember the reason, but I just didn't end up going. So I tried to like spread awareness like online and like through my music as well, through a particular song I wrote. I can't remember the name. I don't think I ever named it.
Can't
But it's
remember
on
the
Instagram.
name. You're plugging it
Yeah.
really well. So I wrote this really important song, but I just can't remember the
Yeah,
name.
can't remember the name. And yeah, so I wrote that song about like how I was feeling at that time. It's just like constantly seeing black people like dying. It's just has such a like strong play on my mental health, especially even till now. I like think about it and all the like injustices going on in the world right now. It's hard.
Perhaps there's not any wrong way to or right way, wrong way to protest as long as you're sort of spreading awareness and being active. I mean, because obviously you're there are there are many people that obviously Corona was at its peak then and didn't leave, and then there are other ways, and you go online and you sign the petitions and you spread awareness and you try and do what you can. I mean, what are your views on the idea of being sort of an ally for those that are non-people of color, and joining in on that sort of battle, because it is a battle in some ways against racism. What are your views on that?
You can do it in so many ways through the internet, the protest, through art, like music or poetry, however, like to spread awareness. And like social media is a big tool that we can use to do that. Because without it, we wouldn't know like half the things that are happening in the world, because they're not being filmed. But yeah, I think just like showing that you're like there and you like truly care, and you're not just doing it for for performative reasons.
I want to ask, because obviously it's important, how do you find yourself, how do you manage, or how do you achieve, unwinding and relaxing and just turning off? And this can be unrelated to music, because I know that music is therapeutic in some respects, but how are you turning off, Shania? How are you unwinding? Tell me.
Sometimes just like chill out and realize, wait, you deserve a break sometimes, and it's okay to like have a break. Do you know what I mean? Or a day off, however long. Like that's okay. Like take your time, honestly, and like do what you want to do, and not feel like forces as though you've got to do this by this by that kind of thing. Just like breathe.